Hey everyone, I am a 23-year-old man, and I have realized that I tend to attract women who are 15 to 30 years older than me. I am not sure why, but I am not upset about it. However, it does make things difficult because I cannot imagine having a long-term relationship with a woman 20 years older than me. I could never imagine introducing someone like that to my parents. There is a woman I have been seeing recently who is 21 years older than me, and we seem to like each other quite a bit. I am mature enough to understand that it would not work long term, but it is enjoyable while it lasts. Story 1. A woman in her early 40s when I was in my 20s. She was an apartment neighbor, and we would hang out occasionally and make each other late-night dinner. She was an alcoholic trying to quit, so when she wanted to drink, instead she would make food. Sometimes that was at midnight, and she would text me asking if I wanted a late-night snack if she heard me awake through the thin walls. Sometimes that turned into a different type of late-night snack. Occasionally she would fall off the wagon, and the sex would get pretty wild. She had few inhibitions to start with, and when she was drunk, what few there were went out the window. That was very different from the 20 and 21-year-old women I was used to dating who did not quite know how to express what they wanted in bed. Sober, she was very direct with what she liked and had no problem telling me how to please her. Drunk, she just went for it, which was sometimes awesome, but sometimes a way I discovered that my kinkiness had limits. Eventually, she moved, and we never saw each other again. Story 2. These older women probably are not looking for a relationship either. Enjoy it while you are young. Be safe out there. Story 3. A lot of casual sex. Some people wanted relationships, but seriously, what would we have in common? There was only one person I seriously considered being in a relationship with until I saw her daughter's picture and realized I had slept with her daughter as well. Small world, and I was very promiscuous in my 20s. Story 4. My wife is 15 years older than me. We met when I was 22 and she was 37. Our parents were a little surprised, but we have had no issues with it. Story 5. Women my age were not interested in me, but older women were. So, I dated older women for a while in my early 20s. A few years later, it was like a switch flipped, and women my age began looking at me with less disgust, so I started dating them instead. Story 6. I had a relationship with a professor in his late 30s during college. I also had a relationship with an older airline attendant when I was in my late 20s. Girls my age thought I was too mature and had my life together because I was not really into pop culture or partying. I worked and studied a lot, liked to read, and enjoyed going to the symphony, swing dancing, Shakespeare plays, and noir movies. Older women seemed to appreciate those interests. Story 7. It sounds like you have the right attitude about it, except for the realization that you only attract significantly older women. As long as you understand that a large age gap comes with many inherent limitations for where things can go, have fun. I'm in my late 40s. I love age-appropriate women. But if I were going to date significantly younger, I would date a 23-year-old before a 32-year-old. With the 32-year-old, there might still be some chance and hope for our relationship beyond the superficial and short-term, despite generational differences and age gap-related problems. With the 23-year-old, we both know the score. I know what she's getting out of it. She knows what I'm getting out of it. We'll burn hot and fast and walk away with good memories. If you are on the opposite end of that spectrum, I say enjoy it to the fullest. Story 8. I dated a 47-year-old when I was 20. Not sure who was more appalled, her 23-year-old son or my mom. It lasted about 3 months until she took in her ex-husband, who was dying of cancer. We both agreed it would be too weird to continue dating at that point. After he passed away, she reached out to me, but I was dating someone else. It was a lot of fun while it lasted. Story 9. Not me, but a friend was working on oil rigs about 10 years ago. When he returned onshore in Aberdeen, he went to a bar and got blackout drunk. He started chatting with an attractive woman he thought was maybe in her late 20s. He was 24, and he couldn't believe his luck. He was a virgin, horny, and drunk. Sure enough, she joined him in his hotel room. The next morning, he called me mortified, saying he lost his virginity to an older woman, but that the sex was amazing. Story 10. The oldest person I was with is 42 years old. I was about 24 at the time. There was no specific reason. It just felt right, and she looked good. I wouldn't have guessed her age if she hadn't told me. Story 11. When you are in your 40s, you will start finding women in their 50s and 60s whose husbands have died and who are flush with life insurance cash and just want to have fun. Story 12. I sure did. Met on America Online or ICQ. Chatted, phoned, booked a flight. It was usually weird and awkward. It was the early days of online dating, if that was not apparent. Story 13. I was 20 and in a band. We had bought some studio time, and the engineer was a woman in her 40s. That weekend, she came to one of our shows to get a sense of our live sound. She was very attentive to me all night. I ended up driving her home, and she invited me in. We hooked up a few times after that, but nothing more. Story 14. I used to work at a sushi restaurant in college. I was also very avid in bodybuilding, so I was pretty jacked then. Older women tend to like that. You also need to be interesting. I was a fine arts major, and women find artists attractive. One woman tried to trick me into getting her pregnant, baby trapping me. She was 38, and I was 22. Honestly, it wasn't anything special sex-wise. As a guy, you tend to do a lot of the work, and it being good depends on you and if you can take charge. Story 15. Sure, have fun, gain some confidence, but do not permanently settle for women 15 to 30 years older. I am 15 years older than you, and I still find women in their mid-20s most attractive. They are in their prime. So are you. This is the era in life when you have your best chance to attract, date, and meet them. Yes, it's hard. Gain some confidence and grow. Date women your age. At age 23, nobody has money. It's a free-for-all. By age 33, men begin separating themselves with careers and money. Sure, there are some attractive women in their 30s and 40s, but the older you get, the smaller that percentage becomes. They also age faster than you by a lot. Story 16. You have to enjoy life. If you enjoy that woman's company, just do it. Enjoy life, man. It's not easy to find people to connect with. Enjoy. Story 17. There is a woman I have been seeing recently who is 21 years older than me, and we seem to like each other quite a bit. I am mature enough to realize that it would never work long term. It is not impossible. But yes, it does have its advantages and disadvantages. Story 18. When I was in my 20s, I always approached women I thought were cute despite age. That's how I got the 45 when I was 25. Story 19. I have not played regularly, but there were a few times and it was always really fun. Be safe, communicate, and have fun. Player. Story 20. At the age of 28, I was freshly divorced and started a relationship with a 50-year-old woman. She had been a ballet instructor, never had children, owned her house, rode motorcycles, and was kind to my child. She was very upset when I turned down the opportunity to be a real couple. I regretted that decision for years until I met my wife. Story 21. I had a few friends with benefits in my 20s, and they were all late 40s to mid-50s. I was in the military and was not interested in drama. The older women I was with were fantastic company outside the bedroom, relaxed and mature. They understood my schedule but really enjoyed getting together. I have always had a thing for older women. It is just something I have always found attractive. They are all smart, well-employed, and sexual but also enjoy the same things I do. Sightseeing, museums, good food, relaxing with movies and books. They were all quite uninhibited in bed too. I miss them and hope they are all happy and well. Story 22. I have had a couple of older women in my life. They were just casual flings. They did not see me as something long-term, just fun, and that is how I saw them too. Story 23. I have always been attracted to people older than me, and I guess I attracted them too. The biggest age gap I have had was 21 years. We just met at the bar while waiting for our respective friends. When it was clear we had some chemistry, she was upfront from the start about not wanting a relationship. We kept things mutual, occasionally having dinner or watching a movie, but it was not a date. We just enjoyed it for what it was, hanging out and sex. Story 24. I did it a lot in my 20s. The oldest woman was 58, most were 35 to early 50s. I loved it because they wanted to sleep together without all the other complications that come with dating. I was a busy man racing and working, etc. We all knew it was a friends with benefits situation and it worked out well for both sides. Most had kids and we would spend time together before the kids got home from school or when the kids were at the other parents'. Or they would leave them at daycare a bit longer while we spent time together. Story 25. When I was 21, I hooked up with a friend's mother who was 52. We were involved for about 7 years. She influenced me, and after that, I would only be interested in older women. Story 26. Starting in my early 20s, now in my mid-30s, my age bracket has always been 35 to 45, a mix of casual and serious. The common factors are better conversation, physicality, confidence, and humor. So yes, yes, and yes. Story 27. At 21, I was a go-go dancer, not a stripper, at a nightclub marketed to middle-aged patrons, also known as a cougar bar. Those ladies were not looking for a relationship. Good times. Story 28. We worked together, and she just wanted fun with a casual partner. I developed strong feelings, but she did not want that, and it all ended there. It was a very positive experience. We had a lot of intimacy, and she was very open-minded and adventurous. I still think about her quite often. Story 29. I figured out the same thing around your age, the best 2 years of my life. I actually had a calendar to keep track of which woman was coming by on which day. I am 51 and was 22 to 24 during this time, so no smartphone. I am sad because I could have had so much video. Enjoy yourself. I kept going until one of them caught me, only 3 years older, but I obviously have a type. I think it happens because they are hitting their sexual prime while you are toward the end of your peak sexuality, so they get you at your best around the same time they truly understand what they want. Perfect combination. Story 30. If you do not mind the cougars, stay in the jungle. I tend to find myself attracted to much younger partners than I am. One that I am currently seeing was born when I was 30. They are now 28. We do not expect to become a couple, as neither of our families would understand or accept the fact that their child was seeing someone older than they are. But we fit well together and have incredible sex. And that is what we are looking for at the moment. Story 31. No. Honestly, in my 20s I was hooking up with women my age. I thought anyone over 35 looked old, and most were out of shape, which was true for both men and women. I don't feel that way anymore at 39, at least about the old part, but I definitely felt that way then. Story 32. As a woman who is a couple of years away from 40, I would not see myself getting close to a man in his 20s. However, it would be flattering. I knew a man in his 20s who consistently dated older women in their late 30s and early 40s. He enjoyed both the intimacy and companionship because the women were more confident, experienced, and mature. Story 33. We used to have a bar that was known for women looking for younger men. The first time my friend and I went there, it was mostly women in their 40s and early 50s. It felt like Elvis walking in at 23 years old, and the cougar claws came out. It was strange to see some mothers of people we knew. Story 34. Back in my 20s, I dated a lot of women in their 40s or above. I was always attracted to older women, and it always worked out well, far fewer games. As far as long-term dating goes, I never cared for that. I was straightforward with them about this, and it was almost always received positively. They were mostly looking for companionship but did not want to be locked down. They wanted someone to go out with and be intimate with, more of a hookup buddy. I had one woman with whom we would see each other twice a week to hook up. I only left the house a few times with her. At 6 months, she texted me saying that since it had been 6 months, she could no longer see me. She had a rule to never be with a single man for more than 6 months. I respected her approach, wished her the best, and we never spoke again. Story 35. This was me. There is a big right place, right time factor, but each experience was overwhelmingly positive for me. The confidence boost the first couple of times was exactly the wind in my sails I needed at that age to find my confidence. Honestly, it was more like rocket fuel looking back. If I can make a suggestion, be open to the possibility of an older woman being your friend even after you stop hooking up. There is a unique kind of friendship that can only develop between a younger man and an older woman in this situation. Since both sides know things can never be more than just friendship and sex, it allows for a level of honesty and insightful perspective from the other that is extremely hard to find in friendships with the opposite gender close in age. Long after we stopped hooking up, I have gone to my friend for advice on things and vice versa. It can be a special thing if there is an actual genuine friendship underneath the amazing sex that will inevitably have to stop at some point. Story 36. One woman, 45 at the time, found me on Instagram. She liked my vibe and interacted with me occasionally. I enjoyed engaging with people who showed appreciation for me or my work as a supportive practice. In our conversations, I discovered we both lived in New York. Eventually, we met up, and things evolved beyond a casual relationship. She owned a fitness studio near Midtown, and that's where we shared some intimate moments. However, the dynamic shifted when she asked me for business help. The relationship changed instantly. She went from being an intimate friend to an unconverted prospect. I met another woman, also 45, on Field while house-sitting for friends in Brooklyn. She owned a bakery. We met at a coffee shop, genuinely liked each other as people, and occasionally met for great local food and sex in various locations. Then I went to Europe and that activity faded, but she found me on Instagram and reconnected with me there. I won't say these experiences were regular, but I have always attracted and related better to older women throughout my post-puberty life. I carry myself with maturity and respect, qualities that the women I attracted seemed not to find among their peers. I believe this contributed to their interest in me. These were deep, intimate connections which likely explains why they occurred. I still regularly attract women who are 10 or more years older than me, but the circumstances are uncommon for most since sex-positive spaces challenge typical social norms. Story 37. Outside of original post, it seems most of these comments are from people reminiscing about their youth. Times were very different then. I would be curious how common this is nowadays from people doing this now. Story 38. I had a period of intimate relationships with a few women in their 40s when I was in my early 20s. The most inconvenient moment was when I connected with a girl around my age and something seemed familiar about her house. Then I met her mother. I had been there before. Fortunately, she liked me and thought I was good for her daughter, so she never mentioned it as far as I know. Unfortunately, her daughter was not such a class act. But good times. Enjoy yourself and most of all, look after yourself. Story 39. At your age, you are not yet fully mentally developed. You are still a child being groomed and manipulated by an older predator. Oh wait, you are a male? Never mind, this does not apply. Story 40. Ride the wave, man. You are 23. There is no need to get locked into a serious relationship right now. Be safe and get yours while you can. Story 41. Yes, I worked at a particular business that had a high number of women. I was 18 and got invited to a 25-year-old woman's apartment at the business Christmas party. At 18 years old, I could go for several hours. She also taught me a lot of things. Apparently, she talked to the other women at work, and my reputation got around. For the next couple of years, I was regularly being hit on by older single women at work. They were not shy about letting me know what they wanted, and I gained a college-level experience over the next few years on sex and what works and what doesn't when it comes to women. When I left that job, things slowed down, but the women I was with afterward were usually pretty impressed after our first time together because of the number of things I had learned about women's bodies and what they liked. Story 42. It kept happening apparently because I did not respect my mother. I kept looking for a Valkyrie of sorts, and they often looked at me with a need to nurture, so nothing ever fit. Story 43. Gay man here. When I was in my 20s, I regularly hooked up with men in their 40s and 50s. Why? Because I was interested in and attracted to them, so I pursued older men. Generally, they were much more skilled and confident in bed. Yes, I also hooked up with men my age, but they weren't always that great in bed. I was a sexually assertive man. As a young man, I learned a lot about sex from older men, how to be a good lover. Then, after a while, I became the 20-something man who was good in bed with other men my age. It had absolutely nothing to do with any psychological issues or anything like that. Older men are attractive. Younger men are attractive, just in different ways. Do you only drink one kind of alcoholic beverage? Or do you enjoy whiskey, beer, and wine? You know what I mean? Story 44. You might check out the age gap community where people actually have long-term relationships despite being decades apart in age. I am 54 and my partner is 27. We met each other's parents and everything, and moved in together this spring. I was not looking for an age gap or anything and was surprised to find so much in common with someone so much younger. But here we are. Story 45. Enjoy living in Florida, but leave when it is time to start a career. At least I assume this is what is happening. Story 46. Don't think too deeply about it. If you want to entertain them, then do so, but don't stop pursuing women your age or slightly older if you genuinely like older women. I'm in the opposite situation, where younger people keep approaching me. Men my age don't really notice me, and I think it's partly because I don't look my age. I have never entertained a younger man, though. I have a preconceived notion that they want to experience a mature, experienced woman. I just want to cuddle and be loved. The younger men who approach me in person often seem to shrink back, even if they are tall. Everyone is taller than me because I am short, but that only shows me how young they really are. Online and in apps, some can be quite bold. Story 47. I did when I was 18. She was in her mid to late 40s and was my first. It was fun at first, but kind of skewed my views on relationships for a while since it was very transactional. That is what I was seeking out for a long time after. Story 48. One reason might be that you are attractive and shy, so you are noticed by many women. The older women approach you while the younger ones wait to be approached, and you never do. Even if you do, you back up either because you are scared of them or your competitors. Story 49. I never got that opportunity, but I certainly would have if I had met one. The oldest woman I was with was 38 and I was your age. We met on Facebook back when Facebook was a little more Wild West. It was a very fun summer and fall. Older women really know how to treat young men. Just do not get too attached and end up like Larry Russell from The Gilded Age. Story 50. Not regularly, but spend enough time in bars and you will be able to find the loose divorcee looking for a good time. Story 51. I want to know how many of the comments are actually real. Considering people do not lie on the internet and automated programs are non-existent here, I would say the chances of that happening are pretty low. Story 52. Hey there, as a woman in her mid-30s, I assume something is wrong with a 44-year-old who wants to hook up with a 23-year-old. You are an adult and it is your decision, but please keep in mind that most normal people would not be pursuing someone half their age. As the younger party, you are the most vulnerable. Story 53. Yes, and it is unpleasant. Do not do it. It is a bad idea. You gain nothing. Once you have done the deed, you will just want to leave quickly. Honestly, you just talk to them. The talkative ones are easy to spot. Story 54. I understand this may be happening because of watching adult content. Another reason no one talks about is that men are attracted to physically mature women because their bodies subconsciously signal they can handle and nourish a baby, indicating they would be good caretakers of offspring. That is why this attraction occurs. But the reality is different. We need to behave accordingly. You can date women a few years older, but not to an extreme extent. Avoid hookups and casual relationships, as they increase emotional burden over time. Focus on long-term healthy relationships. It is better for you and your mental well-being. Story 55. I dated a 44-year-old when I was 30. Just don't wait too long before finding a newer partner. Women do not age as well as men. Story 56. Never. I only wanted women in their 20s, and so did all the men I knew. Men like you cannot attract young, attractive women, so you go for the easy, desperate women who are past their prime. This is a karma farming post. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.